Welcome. This is Rihole from Steam Power. We are a social enterprise that wants to open doors to diversity in STEM, that wants to change the narrative around STEM education that still prevails within the African and African Caribbean communities. We are celebrating Father's Day. So for the month of June, we are aiming to bring you stories from Black men in the world of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And today we have Ernest, who is a senior cloud consultant at Amazon Web Services, AWS, where he helps clients deliver business value through cloud, digital, and transformation. Prior to joining AWS, he worked for his own consultancy and Accenture for 8 years. He is originally from Ghana and came to the UK 16 years ago, graduating from the University of East London with a BSc in computing. He's a father of two children and he is married. He likes to spend as much time as he can with his two children. So welcome, Ernest.
Thank you very much, Rolly. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for accepting our invitation, first of all. So let's begin. Can you tell us what inspired you in, to take a step into this journey?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So originally, I grew up in Ghana, was born in Ghana, and my family, we usually go towards the law route. So when I was a kid, I've always wanted to become a lawyer. And so when I went to secondary school, the subjects that I chose in secondary school were all kind of like law related. But during the my secondary school years, my school had just been given computers. And so we had a lab, and I was really keen with practicing at the lab. I was really fortunate that my dad sent me some computers, mainly to keep me at home, and video games. So I was really attracted to computers when I got to secondary school. And so I won the best computer student during the speech and prize giving day at school. And from there, I was like, okay, this is the thing I want to really do. I don't want to do anything else. Let me change my subject to computer science. So that is what really got me interested. In IT or tech in general. I think that I was really privileged to have had my dad in the UK then, who was then able to send me all these toys and gadgets. So I had opportunity to have the chance to play with them. During those days in the 90s, there wasn't a lot of IT tech around like we see today. So I was really privileged to have had my dad to push me in that area. So I would say my dad and obviously my secondary school.
So would you say that schooling can actually help you in taking the computing route?
Definitely. I think that without the school having computers at that time, I would not have been interested or gotten the chance to actually play around. And obviously, the winning that prize money for the speech and prize giving day really did motivate me a lot, because everybody was like, it was the first time they actually gave some cash money for a speech and prize giving day. And so, yeah, it did really motivate me. So the school did really help. Yes.
And how was it received? Besides your dad supporting you, how did the wider community, do you think, perceives computing? What was the experience?
Yeah, so those days, I think computers were not as very popular as it is now, but people knew that it had a lot of potential and it's potentially, going to be the future. But the problem with Africa was that obviously people did not have the resources to be able to afford computers those years, and so it was difficult for people to even comprehend, or think about how to get involved in that. I think in the whole school, there were two people who had computers, plus obviously the school, myself and one other boy who is actually also into computers now, because his dad was also outside Ghana, so could afford a computer then. So I think it's just really access to computers or access to the resource that was a limiting factor for many people. But people knew that, is the future.
You mentioned that you had actually reading your bio earlier on, you mentioned that you work for Amazon. How is it? What is your role within Amazon as a someone that has done computing science?
So my role at Amazon is mainly to do with helping clients with regards to helping them move into cloud. So I am a senior consultant, and usually Amazon has our cloud platform. So I usually will help clients or advise clients on how they can move the applications from their current data center into the cloud.
Excellent. And how can young people look at a career like yours?
That's a very good question. I think that there are opportunities now than before. So there's a lot of things being done by companies all around to increase diversity and inclusion. So there is a lot more opportunities now than ever for a lot of Black people to get involved. I think that is really getting mentoring and getting someone who is already doing what I'm doing and understanding what they can do to align themselves. I think the challenge with IT is that it changes so rapidly that you need to be willing to learn or constant learning and adapting to new changes. So it's kind of if you have to get involved in it, you need to be willing to learn new skills and build new skills all the time. But most importantly, you need to get a mentor who will then guide you and say, this is what you have to do. This is the current problems and challenges. This is what we're seeing in the real life. Yeah.
I think you mentioned, hang on a minute. Sorry about that, bad
No
timing.
worries. Yeah.
Going back, talking about mentorship, that's a really, really important point because I spoke to actually to females during the month of March, and they were telling me that after university, they felt lonely. They didn't know what to do. They had the skills and they felt that the gap between themselves and those employers was huge. So one in particular told me that she spent a year looking for work. What tips can you give us so that doesn't happen to a lot of young people coming out of university?
Yeah, so that's a very good point. I think that the challenge that a lot of young people is the fact that when they finish uni, they usually will wait until they actually finish before they are proactive in job searching, which is a bit of a late approach to searching for job. So I will say that personally, I mean, I knew my background that obviously because I've come from Africa and I'm Black, I needed to constantly be the best of the best in everything that I do. And so before I even graduated, I started doing some looking for the type of job that I wanted. So in the second year, I started looking at the type of job I wanted and then looking at the requirement for those jobs, and then doing those extra certifications in addition to my university degree. So by the time I actually graduated, I already had some real world experience in terms of the placement that I did and also the qualification that I added on top. And so when you compare me with a recent graduate, I was just on top. And so I was even able to get a job before I graduated, because I stood out from the crowd. And I think that that's the same principle that anyone can apply. You don't wait until last minute. Companies like Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Ernest Young, and all of them, they do usually get the graduates ahead of time before they even graduate. And so if you want to wait until you graduate before you start, you're already late and you're already fighting with a lot more people for the same job. So it's always better to kind of like plan ahead and apply for graduate related jobs. Just don't wait until you finish, right? So and most importantly, be the best you can be. Really stand out from everybody else. Don't be like everybody else and expect people to employ you.
Thank you very much. That's some brilliant advice. So, what would you recommend young people to read, either within computing or outside computing?
I think that the important thing with computing is because it changes a lot and there's a lot of areas that you can get into. um, the most important thing is to sign up to magazines that talks about the latest trends and what is changing. So there are magazines. So there's this British Computer Society. They do have newsletters that is sent around. There is a CompTIA newsletter that also comes out with a few of the latest things. So that is the best thing that I'll probably suggest. And obviously, BBC Click has some nice programs that talks about what is trending and what is coming. So at the moment, there's a lot of talks around machine learning, AI, obviously cloud, digital transformation, cybersecurity is a big one. And so just understanding what is the next big thing and start preparing whilst everybody else is not thinking or trying to get there is very important. So I advise them to look into something like that. In terms of non computing related things to read, one of my favorite books is As a Man Thinketh. Um, your thinking and your attitude defines who you are, and whatever you believe in yourself, somehow you translate to other people. In the workplace, sometimes you find yourself as, let's say the only black person or the only foreigner or anything like that. So if you don't have a strong mindset and attitude, believing in yourself and your ability, you end up always having, an atmosphere where you're a bit worried and concerned and you don't value your contribution. And in the real world, we call it imposter syndrome. And you kind of like always trying to please people. You don't know where you stand. So your thinking is very important. You need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in your ability. I always say that, look, if someone has employed you, they know you can deliver. That's why they employed you. They know there's something in you, whether you know it or not. There is something in you. So I will encourage people to read books like that. Obviously my background, I'm also a Christian, so I read the Bible a lot because there's a lot of proverbs, a lot of things that encourages me and gives me an advantage in terms of believing in myself and believing that with God everything is possible. So I think I'll encourage people to read books like that and really put them into practice, not just read them and just leave them as it is.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier that you spend quite a lot of time with your children when you can. What sort of activities do you do with your children? Are you trying to get them into your same route as you, or are you allowing them to be them?
That's a good question. Recently, my wife asked me, "What university will you like your son to attend?" And I was saying, "Oh, Yale University." And she said, "Why? Is it because of tech and stuff?" I said, "Well, if it's tech, then probably MIT."
Mhm.
Um, but the truth is that, to be honest, you always have to allow kids to be kids, right? So when I first told my dad I wanted to, do tech, my dad reads a lot, and he said, "Well, all the tech jobs are going to India and stuff. So you are likely not to get a job. So don't do tech. Just do your law. You are likely to get a better job if you do the law." But I'm so glad I didn't listen, right? I just pursued tech because I would have probably been more miserable. So for my kids, I do allow them to do whatever they want to do in terms of play. At the moment, the little one is not even 3 yet, or my firstborn is not even 3 years yet. So it's more about him playing games on the iPad, and I haven't introduced any other games. It's just really iPad and stuff. And then helping him drive car. He loves to drive, so he's got this car, little toy car that he drives around. So to be honest, I don't plan to push them into the same area. However, if I see that the interest is there, I'll be very keen to kind of like support him and direct him. But I wouldn't necessarily say you have to become an IT guy like me. I'd rather want him to find his path. One of my doctor friends said to me, he said, I don't have anything else to teach my kids apart from teaching them how to become a doctor. So all his kids are in medical school, and I thought that's interesting because obviously, like you're saying, parents want their children to leave after them. But today, I mean, the world is so different. I've seen people who may not necessarily even have a career. They are YouTubers and influencers, and they're actually making more money than people who are actually working in a career. So whatever the child want to do, just let them do, as long as there's some guidance and mentorship and they are not losing their route. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the interview, Ernest. So this was Ernest, Senior Cloud Consultant with Amazon. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you.